Book of God's Word, Chapter 5. 1. When the day arrived for the slaughter of the male infants, not more than 1,000 mothers appeared at the place of execution with their infants, the others having risen in the night, previous and departed out of the gates, upward out of 89,000 mothers. 2. When the king went to the place of execution, having set apart the day as a holiday, and not finding but 1,000 infants present, he inquired the reason, and, having been told, he said, "Can it be that mothers love their offspring more than they respect the decrees of the king?" Asha was standing near, having stripped himself ready for execution, and he answered the king, saying, 3. Because they love their offspring, is it not the love of the flesh? And doth not the law stand above all flesh? In this matter, then, because they have evaded the law, they have adjudged themselves also to death. 4. Then came Betraj, the king's wife, bringing the infant. Betraj said, "Here is thy son, O king, ready for the sacrifice." Asher reasoneth well. There must be an all-highest, which never erreth, which is the law of the king. Take thou my flesh and blood, and prove thy decrees. What? Why hesitate? If thou swerve one jot or tittle, then shalt thou open the door for all men to find an excuse against the law. Doth not the sun blight a harvest when he will? Yea, and strike dead our most beloved? Art thou not descended from the sun gods? Who will obey the laws if thou thyself do not? 5. The king said, "Behold, it is yet early morn. Let the officers go fetch all who have escaped beyond the walls, and both mothers and children shall be put to death. Till then, let the proceedings be suspended." Now there had congregated a vast multitude, anxious to witness the slaughter. And when the king suspended matters, there went up cries of disappointment. And many said, "When a thing toucheth the king, he is a coward." 6. The king returned for his place, leaving Asha standing stripped for the execution. And the multitude cried out, "More is Asha like a king than Soki. Let us make him king. King Soki. We will not have a sheep for a king, and none could stay them, or be heard above their noise." And they ran after the king and slew him with stones. And they made Asha king of the sun. And there was not one infant slain according to the decrees. 7. God saith, "Think not, O man, that things happen without a cause, or that all things are left to chance. In my works I go beforehand and plan the way, even more carefully than a captain lieth siege to a city. Before Zarathustra was born, I sent Ashers to choose out my personages. Think not that Asha made his own arguments, but by virtue of the presence of my Ashars, whom he saw not, he spake and behaved in my commandments, not knowing it. And even so was it with the king's wife. My angels also inspired her to speak before the king. And those that fled out of the city were inspired by my hosts of angels." 8. God said, "Yet with the king's decree I had no part, for I foresaw he would do this of his own will. And with the multitude in slaying the king I had no part, for I saw they would do this on their own account. Neither would the multitude hear my voice, even though I had spoken to every man's soul, for in them tetrarchs were the ascendant power." 9. God saith, "The multitude slew the king because he had gone so far from me, he heeded me not. And I made Asha king. Because he came so near me, my power was with him through my Ashars." Chapter 6. 1. During the infant age of Zarathustra, God manifested no more through him. But he sent Ejah, one of his lords, to be with Zarathustra day and night. And Ejah taught the infant wisdom in all things, but showed himself to none else. 2. When Zarathustra was half grown, the Lord began to manifest through him, giving signs and miracles and prophecy before the Lystians, who lived in the forest of goats. This forest was of the width in every direction, save the east, of 40 days' journey for a man. And in all that region there were no houses, the inhabitants living in tents made of bark and skins. 3. The Lord inspired Zarathustra to teach them to build houses and tame the goats and to live in cities and otherwise subdue the earth through righteousness, the chief center of their habitations being on the river Aphrodite and its tributaries. And it was from these inhabitants that sprang in after years the migrants called Phoenicians, signifying out of the mountains. Nevertheless, these people were Ihwans, but because of the cruelties of the Parsian kings, they fled and lived in the forests. 4. The Lord said to Zarathustra, Behold the people who fly from kings. I have made them kings over goats and over the beasts of the fields. 5. And from this time forth, the Lycians styled themselves shepherd kings. And Zarathustra taught them of the Lord, that man should have dominion over the beasts of the forest, but that no man should hold dominion over his neighbor. Consequently, every man of the Lycians styled himself a king, and every woman styled herself a queen. 6. Again, the Lord said to Zarathustra, Go thou, my son, whither I will lead thee, and thou shalt find a people sacred to the Great Spirit. So Zarathustra wandered beyond the forest of goats, and came to Herawochij, to the south of the mountains of Hotaka, where were 3 large cities and 12 small ones, inhabited by Ihans. 7. And the Lord had been with the Ihans, and foretold them Zarathustra's coming, so that it was proven on both sides. The Lord said to the high priest, Thou shalt suffer Zarathustra to come within the walls of the cities, for he is pure. 8. So Zarathustra went in, and in the time of worship before the altar of God, the Lord appeared in a great light and commanded the high priest, saying, Behold, I have brought my son to thee. Him shalt thou anoint as a priest according to the Ihan laws, and thou shalt teach him the rites and ceremonies of the ancients. 9. Accordingly, Zarathustra was made a priest and was otherwise accepted as an Ihan, and bestowed under the rod with water and with fire. And he also taught the sacred words and the art of writing and making tablets, and of weaving cloth and making clothes from flax. 10. 7 years Zarathustra remained with the Ihans, fasting and praying, and singing and dancing before the Lord. And then the Lord commanded him to return through the forest of goats, the which he did, teaching before the Lycians, whithersoever he halted for a rest, and the Lord was with him, working miracles. 11. At the end of another 7 years, the Lord said to Zarathustra, Behold, the dawn of light is come. Thou shalt therefore bestow thy mother with thy people, and I would lead thee to the city of thy birth. Zarathustra said, Tell me, O Lord, of the city of my birth. 12. The Lord said, It is a great city, but it shall fall before thy hand, for Ahura Mazda hath turned his favor away from its kings. 13. In 2 days' journeys Zarathustra came to Oaz, and entered into the city, but he brought no provender with him. Now it was a law of Oaz, that all strangers coming into the city should bring provender as a testimony of fidelity to the laws and to the king. So when he came to the inner gate, the keeper asked him for provender, but Zarathustra answered him, saying, 14. Naked I came into the world, and Ormazd asked me not for provender. Is thy king greater than the Creator? 15. The keeper said, I know not thy words. Shall a servant explain laws? To which Zarathustra said, Thou art wise, neither shalt thou suffer for disobedience in letting me pass. The Lord will give thee food. 16. When he had spoken thus, there fell at the feet of the keeper an abundance of fruit, and the keeper feared and stood aside, suffering Zarathustra to pass in. The keeper not only told the people of the miracle, but ran and told the king likewise. This was Asha, who had reigned since the death of Soki, and Asha no sooner heard of the miracle than he imagined the person to be the same who he had seen in infancy. 17. Asha, the king, sent officers at once to find Zarathustra and bring him before the court. But the Lord, knowing these things, inspired Zarathustra to go on his own account, and he went accordingly before the king, even before the officers returned. 18. The king says, Who art thou? And for what purpose hast thou come before the king? 19. Then spake Mazda through Zarathustra, saying, I am Mazda, god of the Ihuans. He through whom I speak is Zarathustra, whom thou sawest in his mother's arms. We twain are one. I have come before thee, O king, because of two reasons. Thou hast sent for me, and I desire to use thee. 20. The king said, Speak further, stranger, that I may approve of thy words. 21. In the time of Soki, said Mazda, I made thee king of Oaz, and from that day to this my ashers have been with thee, and heard thee oft praying privately for information of the infant thou sawest. For it resteth heavily on thy judgment, whether or no man be immortal. Sit thou with me this night privily, and I will show thee Soki's soul. 22. Asha said, Thou wert to smite the city, and it would fall. Behold, it standeth. Yet I desire not to stand in my own light. Then Zarathustra spake on his own account, saying, Fear not, O king, for this philosophy. As thou wouldst bend a straw, so do the gods wheel the nations of the earth. The city will fall ere 6 years past, and thou shalt be reduced to beggary, and yet thou shalt be happier than now. Chapter 7. When night came, the king sat privately with Zarathustra, and Mazda cast a light on the wall, and the soul of Soki came and appeared before Asha. Soki said, Knowest thou who I am? And Asha said, Yea, Soki. 2. Soki said, True, O king, the soul is immortal. And then it disappeared. Asha said, It seemeth to be Soki. And yet if it were, would he not have called me Asha instead of king? Then spake Zarathustra, saying, Call thou for some other spirit. Asha said, Suffer then the soul of my wife to appear. 3. Again the light appeared, and the soul of Asha's wife inhabited it, and he saw her. Asha said, It is indeed, and then she disappeared. Asha said, Had it been she had spoken. Zarathustra said, Call thou for another spirit. Asha called Ch.5-9, the songster, who looked like no other man under the sun. And Ch.5-9 also appeared, and even sang one of the songs about the slaughter of the infants. 4. Asha said, It was like Ch.5-9, but had it been he had surely mentioned the miracle. Then Zarathustra said, Call yet for another spirit. And Asha called, and another appeared. And thus it continued until 20 souls of the dead had shown themselves, and talked with him, face to face, and every one had relating things pertinent to themselves. 5. Then spake Zarathustra, saying, Tomorrow night shalt thou again sit with me. Now, on the next night, 20 other spirits of the dead appeared, and spake face to face with the king. But yet he believed not. Then spake Mazda through Zarathustra, saying, What will satisfy thee, O man? For I declare unto thee, that spirits is not provable by corpor, nor corpor by spirit. There are two things, one groweth by aggregating, and the other groweth by dissemination, of which all light is the highest. As by darkness light is known, and by light darkness known, similarly diverse are corpor and spirit known. 6. Mazda said, Thy generations, O king, have been long bred in unbelief in spirit, and unbelief is so entailed upon thee that evidence is worthless before thee. Who thinkest thou I am? 7. Asha said, Zarathustra. Then Zarathustra asked him, saying, Who thinkest thou I am? 8. Again Asha said, Zarathustra. To which Mazda said, Because thou seest with thine eyes this corporeal body, and hearest with thine ears this corporeal voice, so does thy corporeal judgment find an answer. 9. But I declare to thee, O king, there is a spiritual judgment as well as a corporeal judgment. There is a spiritual man within all men, and it never dieth. The spiritual man, which is within, is the only one that can discern spiritual things. It is the only one that can recognize the spirits of the dead. 10. Then Asha said, How shall I prove there be not some element belonging to thee personally, that is as a mirror, to reproduce a semblance of whatsoever is within thy thoughts. 11. Ahimaaza said, what would that profit thee if proven? And what profit if not proven? Hear me then, for this is wisdom. There are millions of souls in heaven that are in the same doubt thou art now in, not knowing that they themselves are dead, especially those slain in war and in unbelief of spirit life. 12. The king said, who then sayest thou art? Ahimaaza said, first, there is Ormazd, creator, who is over all and within all, whose person is the whole all. Then there are the unseen worlds in the sky, then this world, and the stars and sun and moon. After them, mortals and the spirits of the dead. 13. Hear me, O king, because the dead know not the all-high heavens, the Ormazd, whose name signifieth master of all light, sendeth his exalted angels down to the earth as masters and teachers, having captains and high captains, that their labors be done orderly. The highest captain is therefore called Ahimaaza, that is, master voice over mortals and spirits for their exaltation. 14. Know then, O king, I who speak, have thee and thy city and thy country within my keeping. I am come to stay man's bloody hand, and through Zarathustra will I reveal the laws of Ormazd, and they shall stand above all other laws. Because thou art the most skilled of men, I made thee king. Because thou hast seen that man must have an all-highest law, I have come to thee. Yea, from thy youth up, and during thy long life, I have spoken to thy soul, saying, Asha, find thou the all-highest. Asha, thou shalt have a strange labor before thou diest. Asha, thou that hast attained to the measurements of the stars shalt find a power behind the stars. 15. The king said, enough, enough, O stranger. Thou turnest my head with wonders. I scarce know if I am living or dead because of the mastery of thy wisdom. Alas, my kindred are dead, my friends are fools, I have none to tell these wonders to. All thy days shalt thou live in my palace, and whosoever thou demandest for wife shall be granted unto thee. 16. Ahimaaza said, till I come again to thee, O king, keep thine own counsel. For the present I must return to the forest. Give me, therefore, of thy choicest ink and brushes and writing cloth, and send thou 2 servants with me. Asha said, suffer thou me to be one of thy servants, and I will abdicate my throne. 17. Ahimaaza said, I shall need thee where thou art. Thus ended the interview with the king. The next day Zarathustra returned to the forest to write the Zarathustrian laws. Chapter 8. 1. These then are the Zarathustrian laws, the Ahimazdian laws, which, being interpreted into the English language, should be described as God's word, transcribed from the libraries of heaven by the will of Jehovah. 2. That is to say, 3. Zarathustra said, interpret to me, O Holy One. 4. Ahimaaza said, O Pure One, all pure, hear thou, I will interpret. Write thou. 5. Zarathustra wrote. Then spake Ahimaaza to Zarathustra, the all-pure. 6. First, Ormazd was, and he created all created things. He was all, he is all, he was all round, and put forth hands and wings. Then began the beginning of things seen and of things unseen. 7. The first best highest place he created was the all possibility, and the second best highest place he created was the all good. With him are all things possible. With him are all things good. 8. Ormazd then created the first best of places, the longest enduring, the Ariana Vaja, Etheria, the highest of good creation. 9. The third best created places created Ormazd, which was Haraiti, a highly heavenly good place, a home of Fragapati, a creator son of the heavenly Ariana Vaja, a rescuer of men and spirits from Andromanius, the evil of blood and bone. 10. The fourth best created places created Ormuz, the creator, which was Gao, the dwelling place of Subda, of heavenly shape and straight limbs and arms and ample chest, full of music. 11. Out of Mauru, of the regions of Haraiti, came the voice, created by the creator Ormazd, came to Ihwa Mazda, and now cometh to thee, Zarathustra, thou all pure. 12. Fifth best place created the creator, the Bhakti, with lofty standards. 13. Then came Aramanius, the black doubt, the Sagwan, sowing seeds. 14. After that, the creator created Tsugi, the reason of man, and turned his eyes inward, that he could see his own soul. Chapter 9. Came to Zarathustra, the all-pure, the voice of Ihwa Mazda, by the host of Haraiti. Hear me, O Zarathustra, I am Ihwa Mazda. Hear thou of thy Creator, who created all created things. 2. These are the chief first best places created. First, the earth and the air and the water, and all the living that are on them and in them. 3. Out of darkness void, waste, and nothing was, as seeming nothing, and shaped he, the Creator Ormazd, the shape of things. 4. The living that live, the living that are dead, the first of all that breathed, created the Creator Ormazd. 5. With legs or wings, or hair of feathers, or naked, to crawl or walk or fly, created the Creator Ormazd, all the living. 6. To all to live a life, a right to live and die, out of the life of Ormazd gave he them life and death. 7. Then asked Zarathustra the all-pure, inquiring of Ihwa Mazda, saying, To whom else hast thou these things spoken? 8. Ihwa Mazda said, Since 1,000,000, before 1,000,000, to more than 1,000 million. Then asked Zarathustra, Tell me one, of one, to whom thou hast revealed. And then answered Ihwa Mazda, To Vivanho, the first of men who had words, the first of women who had words. In the first best created days of pure men and pure women I came, I revealed. Then Zarathustra, the all-pure, said, 9. To be all pure, to be all good, to be all wise, to be all holy, to do all good works. What are these? 10. Ihwa Mazda said, These are to hear my voice, O Zarathustra. Then Zarathustra said, To be all bad, to be all foolish, to be all evil thinking, to do evil. What are these? 11. Ihwa Mazda said, These are not to hear my voice. These are Andromanius, O Zarathustra. Then Zarathustra inquired, saying, Is not to hear thy voice a person? Is the to hear thy voice a person? 12. Ihwa Mazda said to Zarathustra, the all-pure, Andromanius was a person, but he is dead. Vivanho is a person, and he liveth to all the holy, to all the good, to all the wise. But to all the evil, to all the bad, to all the foolish, Andromanius is not dead. 13. Then inquired Zarathustra, the all-pure, Whence came all good? Whence came all evil? Who is all good? Who is all evil? Then answered Ihwa Mazda to Zarathustra, saying, Thou perceivest now, all evil must have a name. All good must have a name. Without names no man could talk. Before, I will write for thee, O Zarathustra, thou all-pure. The mark I make first. Thou shalt call the all-good, the Creator, the Master, the Light. Here, then, have I made a circle and a cross and a leaf. 14. Ihwa Mazda said to Zarathustra, the all-pure, Whoever looketh upon this mark, whoever seeth it, seeth the name of all names, the Creator. Whoever maketh this mark, writeth the name of the all-good. Whoever pronounceth this mark, pronounceth the name of Ormazd, the All-Master. 15. Then made Ihomazda a circle, and painted 4 dark corners in it, and called it Anramanius, the Udruk, the opposition to all truth and all light, and all good. And Ihomazda explained to Zarathustra. 16. And, behold, there stood within the circle of evil the name of all good, the cross, and it was light, and the corners were black. Ihomazda called this mark Fate, explaining to Zarathustra the all-pure, saying, These 3 marks embrace all the created creation. Hence the name of the third one is Fate, from which there is no escape, nor separation, forever. 17. Zarathustra inquired of Ihomazda, saying, Is evil evil? Is good good? Ihomazda said, Evil is evil to man, but evil is not evil to Ormazd. Good is good to man, but good is not good to Ormazd. Only 2 conditions are before Ormazd, not evil nor good, but ripe and unripe. To Ormazd, that which man calleth evil is unripe. To Ormazd, that which man calleth good is ripe. 18. Ihomazda went on explaining, saying, For sake of understanding, O Zarathustra, for sake of not confounding, thou shalt call evil evil, and good good. Hear me then, my son. 19. Without green fruit, none could be ripe. Without evil, none could be good. So Ormazd created all creation and called it good. But lo and behold, there was nothing to do. All things moved not, as if dead. All things were as nothing. 20. Then Ormazd blew his breath outward, and every created thing went into motion. And those at the front were called all good, and those at the rear were called all evil. Thus created the Creator the good creation and the evil creation, the Ihomazda and the Anramanius.